Hi, this is Pat Johnson, your psychology instructor, and in this mini lecture we're going to talk about different professionals in the field of psychology. Before we start mentioning the different professionals, let's just do a quick review of higher education in the United States so that when we link a position to a degree, we all know what we're talking about as far as the degree goes. Let's assume that somebody has a high school credential. Some of our college students are taking both high school classes and college classes at the same time, but let's go ahead and assume that for most people in higher education, they've already earned a high school credential. Some people stop at the level of getting a certificate or a diploma, which are quick routes to different jobs, usually gaining a skill set to get into a career. Some people earn an associate's degree, and there are different types of associate degrees, so let's talk about those quickly. And some of the different types of associate degrees that there are AA degrees, AS degrees, and an associate in applied science. So AA stands for an associate in arts, and AS stands for an associate in science. These two degrees here are considered college transfer degrees. They're your first 2 years of college, and then most students go on and transfer to a 4-year school. If you get an associate in applied science, you're not taking just classes that would transfer to a 4-year school. An associate in applied science is to gain you a skill set so that you can go out and get a job that's fairly decent paying in the world of work after only 2 years of education. And again, these are all 2-year degrees, but that's assuming that you're going at least 17 credit hours a semester, not including developmental classes. After an associate's degree, some people get a bachelor's degree, and a bachelor's degree is at least 4 years full-time. And like an associate's degree, there are BAs, Bachelor of Arts, which is, again, like an AA. That doesn't mean you take a lot of art classes. That means you are in a non-math or science intensive program. A BS is a Bachelor of Science, which is more math or science intensive. You could have a Bachelor in Social Work. There's different types of bachelor's degree. Above this level here, we're talking about grad school. So if you get a master's degree or one of the different doctorate degrees, you are in grad school. So there are different types of master's degrees, and different types of master's degrees are MAs, Master of Arts, a Master of Science. One of my degrees is a Master of Education. You could have a Master of Social Work. There are different types of master's degrees. And again, a master's degree is also at least 2 years full-time after a bachelor's degree. The highest type of degree is a doctorate degree. And some people go right from a bachelor's program into a doctorate program. Some people get a master's first and then get a doctorate. There are different routes to doctorate degrees. There are PhDs, and that stands for a Doctor of Philosophy. A PhD is the highest level in an academic discipline. So somebody could have a doctorate in history or a doctorate in English or a doctorate in mathematics, and those would be PhDs. There are other type of doctors, though. There are medical doctors, an MD. There are doctors of dental science, a DDS. My niece has a JD. That stands for Juris Doctor. She's a lawyer. You could be a doctor of veterinary medicine. All of these are doctors. PhD is when we're talking about an academic discipline, whereas these are considered professional degrees. All right, let's move on to our professionals in psychology. A psychiatrist has an MD. They are a medical doctor. They went to med school just like any other person who has an MD, and then they specialized instead of in something like cardiology or pediatrics. They specialized in psychiatry, which is the treatment of mental illnesses. And as a psychiatrist, they can prescribe drugs. And so usually a psychiatrist is going to use a more medical model to diagnosis and treatment when they work with clients. Psychologists are also doctors, but they're not medical doctors. Most psychologists have PhDs. Some have what are called PsyDs. That's a doctorate of psychology. Those are more rare. But a psychologist, unlike a psychiatrist in most states cannot prescribe drugs. There are a few states that allow psychologists to prescribe drugs with extra training, but these are more likely to use a talk therapy model. Counselors usually have some type of master level degree. I have a master's in counseling, and that master's is a MED. Some people have an MA as a master's in counseling. Counselors are more likely to treat normal, everyday people with regular problems, whereas psychologists and psychiatrists are more likely to treat people with mental illnesses. One of the professionals in psychology that most students don't know about are clinical social workers. Clinical social workers usually have a master's in social work. After they finish or as part of the end of their master's degree, they do a long internship, but they treat people somewhat similar to psychologists in that they do a lot of talk therapy with people with mental illnesses. Other professionals in the field of psychology, there are psychiatric nurses, there are people with associate degrees who run all the equipment like CAT scans and EEGs and things like that. A lot of clergy, whether it be a priest or a rabbi or a minister, do counseling. They could be considered a professional in the field of psychology. So there's just a lot of other jobs. But most students, if they're interested in treating clients, need to get at least a master's degree in psychology to work in the field.